like to invite the first speaker and my co-moderator today, Yongding Li of BirdLife International, to provide a broad overview of the threats to migratory birds in Asia and the role of mist nets. So over to you, Ding Li.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you very much for that really excellent background and also the introduction to our session here today. Really glad to be on this webinar and meeting lots of old friends, colleagues, collaborators, and also new friends and collaborators in conservation. Building on what Terry has mentioned earlier on, and as Terry has rightfully pointed out, migratory birds face many threats around the world today, and especially here in Asia, which is effectively the most crowded part of the planet. Now, the long journey taken by migratory birds can be extremely dangerous, and as much as birds can succumb to exhaustion and natural threats like bad weather, storms, they also have to negotiate a complex, long list of dangers that are created by human beings. Across Asia, birds are widely trapped by local people for food, including by local communities living along the coastline. And also in the mountains of Southeast Asia, birds are widely trapped as food. Some species may well even be hunted in such great numbers because they are considered by local cuisines as delicacies, especially for species like swallows. But then these threats to migratory birds get even more complex because as human populations increase, there will be increasing demand for seafood like prawn, fish, and many kinds of shellfish. There are vast markets for shellfish everywhere from here where I am in Singapore to Thailand, Vietnam, China, Cambodia, Japan, and Korea. Many aquaculture farmers will resort to the use of netting to protect their shellfisheries, as my colleagues will later share, and this too is known to cause great amounts of mortalities to migratory birds. And of course, besides these threats, birds also have to face increasing habitat loss as wetlands and forests are being converted to other kinds of land use. Current research by scientists across the flyway show that many species here in Asia, in the East Asian-Australasian Flyway, are in steep decline. Famous shorebirds like the spoon-billed sandpiper, for example, have declined by nearly 90% over the last 2 decades. Some of these species are very well known, such as the red-crowned crane, which is a species that is very embedded in our cultures here in Asia, and also species like the black-faced spoonbill. These birds occur widely across the region and are the shared natural heritage of many Asian countries. On that note, and recognizing the conservation challenges that we face, we should and will today learn that there are also at the same time many exciting and important conservation initiatives and projects around the region to address the threats that are faced by migratory birds, and especially in addressing mist nets and nets that are used to hunt birds or even to protect rice crops or aquaculture. Some of these initiatives are led by conservationists on the ground, many of who are here on the call today, while others are driven by our colleagues and counterparts in government. Many of these initiatives and efforts offer good lessons and show us what we can achieve to address biodiversity loss and threats to migratory birds if we work together. Obviously, there is much to be learned, and at this very point, I will pass the floor back to Terry to take us through some of these excellent presentations that will come forth from our colleagues in and around Asia. Back to you, Terry.
Thank you, Ding Li, for that excellent overview. We're now going to go straight into a series of short presentations, case studies. And first up, I would like to introduce Chang Nguyen of Wild Act Vietnam, who's going to provide us with a case study from the Red River Delta, Vietnam. So over to you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my screen now. My name is Chang, and I'm a founder and director of a local organization called Wild Act. And I am really, really grateful to be here today. And I'm very grateful for the organizers of this really meaningful webinar. There is a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And I believe that it is sure take more than a village to protect our migratory birds. So in the first slide, I just want to show a little bit on the maps for those who are not very familiar with the geography of Vietnam. The Red River Delta biosphere lies in the northern part of the country, and this is such an important area for migratory birds. But like elsewhere, there has been recorded a huge number of habitat decline, and mostly due to the change in wetland areas and mudflat into stream farming. Hunting, obviously, during the migration season had also been highlighted in the Vietnamese media as a bird crisis. Since 2021, we have been developed a long-term project aiming to address this crisis in Vietnam with a goal to bring back a safe stopover habitat for migratory birds of the East Asia-Australasian Flyway, in which Vietnam is also one of its partners. To achieve this long-term goal, we have 4 objectives: increasing enforcement, building capacities, and cross-sector collaborations. We have awareness and education raisings, and we also have empowering local communities to directly and actively implementing bird conservation activity on the ground. So I'm going through all 4 of these objectives and to show you what have been done in this area in Vietnam. So first is first, to understand the scales and impact of hunting, as well identify hunting hotspot. We conducted a transect survey across 5 communes within the 5 districts within the 3 provinces in the RDBR with Red River Delta Biosphere Reserve. Our team intensively implemented transect survey with the average of about 1.2 kilometers in length, using motorbike at 10 km an hour and on foot when it's not possible to use a bike. Any sighting of net were recorded, including number of trap, the type of trap, measurements of the mist net, including height, width, and length, number of birds being kept as a bait. And if it was not possible to measure the mist net, because sometimes the mist net can be at the middle of a pond, then estimation of the dimension was recorded. We also take picture of the area when possible and try to identify bird species that was caught or was used as bait. For example, in this picture you are seeing here is a typical hunting ground where the net was erected on both sides of the ditch. Decoys and real bird was used. Real alive bird was tied down in the middle, and they also have speaker on the sides, and they would emitting bird calls in the late afternoon from 4 p.m. until really late at night. It was very fortunate for us as well in a way, because we started this project in late 2021, and by 2022, for the first time ever, I hope Bao can correct, Mr. Bao can correct me if I was wrong, but the Vietnamese, for the first time ever, the Vietnamese Prime Minister issued a directive 04 calling for urgent solutions to conserve wild and migratory birds. We was very hopeful that it would make our job easier. I also wanted to highlight in this picture is that the picture here, the first picture that you see here, for those that are unfamiliar with the Vietnamese culture, what you are seeing is a new tomb that was literally just bury someone underneath for like 1 or 2 days. But at the graveyard is an open area. Hunter also take advantage of this area to hunt birds as well. And you can see meat nests are being erected surrounding the tomb, despite the local taboo of, respecting the dead. And it was such a shocking image for me. On the left-hand side, you will see here that our data reveal that migratory birds are being hunted intensively and at a sort of large scale across the RDBR, across all 3 provinces. And bear in mind that we only did the survey throughout the 5 districts. And I believe that if we have enough people and enough time, if we survey the whole area, the whole coastal area of Vietnam, for sure there will be more nests being identified and illustrated on this map. The data from our research was showing that if we added up the length of the mist net that measure in 1 district within Ninh Bình province, it would be as long a traveling distance from the city of Ninh Bình itself to the city of Hanoi, the capitals, which is almost 100 kilometers, and that was within only 1 district. So not only water birds were found, but we also found meat nests with other rotten carcasses, such as owls and kestrel, and was later admitted by hunters that they only untangle birds that are large and for high economical value, such as herons, and they would untangle them and they would sell them for money. But other smaller species, such as sparrow, such as owls, they don't care about them, and they would let them to die really painfully and rotten on the nets. Our most recent survey showed that there was at least 700 mist nets was found, 174 bird nets, both were used as bed, and 144 speaker was found in Tai Binh. And for Nam Dinh, it even worse. There's over 1,000 mist nets, almost 160 speakers, almost 200 birds, and in Ninh Bình it's over 400 nets, 375 birds, and over 200 speakers. It's important for us to highlight that only one district in Ninh Bình was within the RDBR, and therefore the lower number of mist net found in this area doesn't indicate that they are less hunting or people more aware of bird conservation. So what do we do when we have all this data? We contacted the local forest protection department, as you see in the picture. We're asking for collaboration for all 3 provinces and reminding them of the Directive 04. We also take advantage of the media as well, because after the call from the Prime Minister, the media take a huge interest in these issues, and especially starting of every migration seasons, there are lots and lots of news on both televisions and on e-news on website highlighting the crisis. So we would send an official letter to the APDs, and then we send a letter to the media asking them to accompany us and the APD to go patrolling and removing the mist net. So however, when we were working with the ranger, as you can see on this picture, we start to realize that they don't really have much understanding of the bird welfare, nor zoonosis, or how to handle injured birds. And in fact, you can see that this ranger was trying to removing a string attached to these bird legs, because the hunter was tying the bird down as bait. While trying to do so, he was afraid that the bird gonna peck him. So he's just holding its head and then bend its head really awkwardly to the foot. And by doing that, and then he was afraid and he threw the bird. When he managed to get the bird out, he threw it on the floor quite hard. So by doing that, he can accidentally causing more damage to the birds, and actually the mortality rate of rescue bird can be quite high. So we were quite worried about that. And then we hosted quite a few workshops and training and talking with them. And then we realized that, okay, this is something it needed. And this is something the ranger really wanted to have the capacity built on how to rescue birds and how to have some first assessment and aware as well understanding of the zoonosis. So we hosted these 2-day bird rescue training sessions for 14 rangers across 3 provinces in Ninh Bình, Tai Binh, and Nam Dinh province. As part of our collaboration with FOPO, we are very grateful for them. Their 2 wonderful vets came over to our sessions. They provide a throughout theoretical session as well as the practical session when they actually go to the field with us and the rangers, showing them how to remove birds from the net safely, how to assessing health, how to know that this bird is safe enough that we can just release them immediately, and which one that need to have some help from the vet, and which one that might be is better just to help them to have a humane death. And so it's really interesting that the ranger was really interested in this topic. And we did a quick survey, and and the results show that their overall understanding of bird rescue and welfare increased by 54% overall pre and post death, showing that result. So we was very happy about that, and we hope that we're able to hosting more events like that for the rangers in the year to come. In this picture, the 4 smaller picture here, you can see that we not only working with the APDs, we also trying to get people from other sectors to get involved. So this guy here is actually one of the celebrities in Vietnam. So we host this event and attracting like kind of tech-savvy young celebrity KOL into coming over and calling the public to join hands to sign a pledge to protect wild birds. We also have local representatives such as the local teacher, officers from the education department in the province. We also have environmental police, and we invited them over to join to have a kind of open space where they can discuss what is the challenges, what is difficult for them to do their jobs, and how other people from other sectors can join and can help them. The last picture down here is one of our collaboration with a corporate business in Hanoi, where they was very interested in this project, and they were helping us by letting us install a small kind of counter where we show pictures and facts about birds, talking to the customer about the bird crisis, and then calling people for actions. And we have been able to doing this work with them for the last 2 years. So we was very hopeful for future and continue these collaborations. And obviously, enforcement must come hand in hand with education and awareness raisings. But if we don't know anything about the local people, we don't know their attitudes and their understanding, we have no way to start. So when we're starting this project in 2021, we actually did an intensive survey with the local people just to get some baseline understanding of the people there. A total of 126 previous hunter and bird consumer was responding, participating in our survey. And it's quite interesting that it's a very high number, actually 84% of the people participated in our survey were Catholic. And you can see on the screen, it's very large percentage of respondents stated that it's very easy to buy bird hunting equipment. I think this is related to one of the things Terry was saying earlier. Mistnet, it's just so easy to buy Mistnet. You can find everywhere. You can find in the market. You can Google it online. You can find on Facebook. You can find on online trading platform like Shopee, and it's so cheap. It's like $1, and you have nets to put up to hunting birds. And the respondent also, they kind of like split, the attitude split regarding whether the government should or should not allow people to hunt birds in both Tai Binh and Ninh Binh. Some claim that birds, especially like herons, because they are big, when they landing on the rice field, they destroy the rice field, and thus they just want to protect their birds, and that's why they erected the nets around the area. But I also want to draw the attention to this background picture. I took this during our survey in Nam Định, and it's kind of like showing pretty much the kind of the problem that I highlighted. So we have the really big, beautiful church behind. People are Catholic; they go to the church every weekends, and then they're also erecting these trap to hunt birds. And as a result of our survey showed a majority of hunters and also consumers in this area are Catholic, we decided that we must reach out to religious leaders in the area. So fortunately, a local church responded to our call. And the priest actually was very supportive, and he was willing to work with us and develop awareness raising material, started leaflet and distribute it to the Catholic parishioner every Sunday when they come to Mass. The priest also interweaving bird conservation messages with the Bibles and call for action during Mass. So the first picture on the left is one of the pictures showing our collaboration with the Catholic leaders. And we also work with local school. This one, our rising star, as one of our communication teams were telling us actually yesterday when we was in the office, and they were saying like our Sandy is a spoonbill sandpiper mascot, get the most hug in Wyatt last year. But wherever he go, he attracted so much attention, and children love them, the teacher love them, adult people love them, and when they saw the bird, they want to come over, they want to learn why the big look so strange, why does it look like the hair, the skin feather look like sand. So we were able to adopting our storytelling and telling people about the story of the spoonbill sandpipers. And we're also collaborating with local teachers, subjects that are art, biology, and even geography. We can interweaving our mascot, Sandy, into telling the story and teaching the students about geography, the birds fly from this area to this area, in biology, teaching them about ecology of birds, and in art, telling them to go drawing picture of Sandy and his friends. So we also, it's really important why actually, because empowering women in conservation is one of our 4 main pillars. So all of our project, we try to interweaving this gender into the project and try to empowering the local women. And by doing so, we was working very closely with the women unions and providing training for them to take lead in conservation activity within their communities. So over 50 women actually will receive our training and create their own wonderful bird conservation projects. So they were developing their own project, what they want to do in their communities, how are they going to implementing it. By week time, they have the whole schedule for 2025, and we were supporting them to receive micro funding of $3,000 each, so that they can implement their project within the community. So in this picture, you see we was having a scorecard with them to understand which subject, which area of bird conservation they're interested in, helping them to developing their idea in making it to a logic kind of flow, schedules and what activity and how they're going to do it. And these are some of the billboards that were erected with support from the women unions in Ninh Bình province. So this is how the result in number look like. I'm not going to read all of them. I realize there's not much time left. But some of the things I just want to highlight is that over 9,000 meter of mist net was removed, which is actually not much, or only around 360 mist net was removed. And this number is super modest compared to the number of nets that I was telling you earlier that was found and measured. But there are hope, because over 180 birds was rescued and released, and importantly that we were able to support and insist the local authority in Ninh Bình to seize over 14 illegal trade of wild bird meat and reported the news to the media. And with rangers from all 3 provinces receiving training how to rescue birds, we hope that the survival rate of rescue birds will increase and mortality will decrease. This is our last slide, and I just want to highlight some challenges that we are facing in Vietnam. For example, if read the news lately, the government has undergone a huge change with the downsizing policy. They are merging and reorganizing 14 ministries. So things are a little bit quite uncertain at the moment. They are planned to allow to also merge management of national park, nature reserve, and protected forests, as well as merging provincial and district APD's management. So at the moment, we're not really sure how the collaboration and how the enforcement work going to be like in 2025. I just want to stress it's so very, very difficult to motivate APDs to actually take actions. APD in Ninh Bình has been amazing, but other provinces not yet interested. Issue related to flagship species like black mammals, tiger, pangolin, elephant, etc., they will act on it immediately. But when the case comes to them as wild birds, they doesn't get much attention. So far, no hunter have received fine for bird hunting using mist net. The only thing that they seem to really worry that when we reported that we saw hunters with gun, because owning a gun and go hunting with gun is illegal in Vietnam. But with a mist net, is pretty much we go and we remove it. The next day, local people erecting the nets again. Obviously, that turned into a circle. And as the price for buying hunting equipment is so low, hunting equipment is so available, there was no serious consequence for hunting. This needs to be addressed. And since 2020, it has been extremely difficult and super lengthy for charity organizations like us to receive permission from the government to implement projects that receive funding coming from overseas. They had put a huge restraint and delayed in the number of projects, and permission procedure can take up to 18 months. And obviously, our migratory bird cannot wait for 18 months for anything to happen. But there are things that we can hope for, and there are things to be done. We're committed to continue strengthening cross-sectors partnership, especially those among rangers and environmental police. More cases should be treated seriously and prosecuted to act as a lesson for others to follow. And we're hopeful that local partners that we've been working with, such as the local women unions, have been really useful, and we're really hopeful that next year there could be a local workshop in Vietnam prior to the East Asia-Australasian Flyway partnership meeting it would be a great idea to inform the Vietnamese representative about the issues on the ground and to keep them posted of the local people of the local report. We really hope that too, we can bring in our local partners, such as the teachers, such as the women unions, students, the religious leader, to inform them and to let them know all of these amazing, wonderful works that they are implementing on the ground. And finally, we are working with a biologist. I hope he's here. I was sending him the link to this webinar yesterday. He has a huge interest in bird conservation, and he's working with me at the moment, with WIAC at the moment, to create a smart mobile model that can be applied to collect data throughout Vietnam. We think that it's super useful to collect and managing data across from the north to south Vietnam and creating a track record of baseline data of on the misnet of all this illegal hunting activity. And then we aiming that we applying to develop funding to develop this project for citizen science, especially targeting the young tech-savvy Vietnamese to get them involved in monitoring, reporting of misnet across the countries. So that are some of the plans that we really, really wanted to do in 2025 and in the next few years. So thank you very much for listening, and I really hope I don't go over time too much, and I'll be happy to answer any question you might have later on.
Thank you so much, Tang. That's really fabulous first presentation to set us up. I think some of the things you talked about are really important, like the need to engage communities and ensuring that law enforcement goes hand in hand with education and awareness. And also the effectiveness of reaching out to local groups, in your case, the Catholic Church, for example, that is a great way to amplify messages and increase the reach of your work. And I really like those plans that you mentioned at the end to involve citizen scientists in monitoring and reporting of misnets. I think this is definitely something on which countries can collaborate and share good practice. So really, thank you so much for that. Next up, we travel a little bit across the country for our second case study from Vietnam, this time from the Mekong Delta. And our speaker is Bao, also Nguyen, Bao Nguyen, from Walter and BirdLife International. So over to you, Bao.
Hello, can you see my slide?
Yeah,
Hello.
we can see it, but we can see multiple slides, so maybe you need to play.
Let me swap it in. Okay. Is it okay now?
Great, perfect. Great.
All right. So good. I don't know how to say good evening or good afternoon or good morning, but hello everyone. So the next presentation is another story from Vietnam. Let me introduce a little bit of myself. My name is Bao Nguyen. I'm working at the university in Ho Chi Minh City, but I'm also operating a company, a private company called Wild Tour. It's a private company, but it's steeply working in conservation and bird watching tour. So about bird watching tour and conservation is collaborate together. And we work with BirdLife International for several years now, I think about 10 years. And this is the story that I want to share with you. Is not only about the misnet, but in general, the conservation of migratory shorebird and other waterbird in the Mekong Delta, including the restoration, the habitat protection, and the law enforcement. And here today, I just update what we are keep doing and the successful story. So let me keep moving. The first point, I just would like to introduce a little bit about the migratory bird in the Mekong Delta. Regarding the, I don't know how I move on. Sorry. Okay. So the we have in the Mekong Delta, we have two parts. One we call it the coastal area, and the other one is the inland wetland area. So I introduce you two parts. One part is along the coast, which is very important. It's a vital role of the migratory bird hub. So the story here, because we found that a lot of birds are declining, but we didn't know, in the past, we didn't know how important of the coastal line in the Mekong Delta for the migratory bird. So back to 15 years ago, nearly 15 years ago, we recognize that the river mouth, so all the intertidal wetland is quite important for several species, but it's just a no until we have the initially survey and we found it's really played an important role for the migratory bird. So after that initial survey, we keep monitoring to see how the bird come to use that intertidal wetland. So we keep do this survey, but it's very short survey every year from 2013, 2014, and then 2016. And after our report, then BirdLife International came and helped us to do more comprehensive survey. So we do like a monthly monitoring. Sometimes we do 2 field trips a month to check on the important sites. So we go on through the site from Ho Chi Minh City and down to the tip of the Mekong Delta. And here is some initial result. So we found the habitat along the coastal line is important for the spoonbill sandpiper, important for spotted greenshank, or we call the Norman greenshank. It's also important for the great knot and other species. I can tell so many, but to try to go quickly. So here we recorded 6 global threatened species that included the critical, endangered, and vulnerable, and 10 near threatened species. It's actually more because the IUCN 2025 just upgraded many shorebirds are more threatened or more endangered. And on the side that we survey, it matched the IBA criteria or even the Ramsar site or the EAAF network site. So all the site along the river mouth of the Mekong are important. Let me move a little bit to the upper Mekong Delta. So here you can see again along the coastal with the blue area is the mangrove, and other place we call it intertidal or the mudflat are not protected. That's the key thing, because people catch the bird in non-protected area. It's legally in Vietnam. It now it's illegal, but before that it's legally. So people can catch the bird, can hang the mist net outside the protected area on the rice field, on the mud flat, or wherever, and let it in outside the protected area. To the upper Mekong River in the Delta, we have several protected areas like Tram Chim National Park here. Up here, we in Long An province, we have Lang San. Some people familiar with these, some people may not. But like U Minh Hai and U Minh Thương, it's the Melaleuca swamp forest, so we call it the peatland. And though protected area are the home for many species, including the Charlotte crane, which is in Tram Chim and other places around Tram Chim. It's also home to million egress. Egress in the Mekong is not only using the protected area, but they also using the rice field. So we can see that the whole Mekong Delta are wetland and are home to many species of bird. They also, you can see the rice field on the background, that the land that people prepare for the rice farming, just prepare the soil. And we can see on the background lots of grocery items and egret using that. And it's also important wintering site for many other migrant species like godwit, gargany, and ducks. You can see here the black-tailed godwit. They are also using the rice field during the badland and during the unplanted land, and after that they move to another place. So that's some background or overview of the Mekong Delta, that how important of the Mekong Delta for the migratory species, migratory bird. And of course, the threats. Go to the threats, we can see along with the poisonous by the using the chemical for agriculture, also the habitat loss. The threat from hunting and trading bird are still important and still significant declining of the population. You can see here we have the shorebird in the case waiting for someone to buy. The mist net hanging along the sock pan. The sock pan also important for the shorebird during the high tide or super high tide. They come to root and foraging in the sock pan, and they use the mist net, catch a lot of bird. And you can see they catch everything. The mist net is quite horrible because the bird don't know, the mist net don't know the bird are declining, the bird are threatened, they catch any species. You can see here the sting, the redneck sting, but the spoonbill sandpiper may be similar thing. And the market in the Mekong Delta, many markets have wild bird hanging in the market. So that's the story of the threat. And when we found the threat like that, we were thinking how to deal with the problem. It's a big issue, and we thought that we need to do something. So the first step, we have the team, and we go to talk to local people. Because we are not park ranger, and at that time it's illegal to catch bird outside the national park, outside the protected area. So we just come to talk to local people and try to explain them, how important of the bird in ecosystem, and the how poorly if you catch the bird, and try to convince them to remove the mist net. And we replay them by the fishing net or other story, even just a bottle of alcohol to the local people. And then we ask the public media like television, lots of journalists and reporters. They came with us, and they wrote a lot of article on public media, and also we posted on Facebook on others, story about the hunting and the catching. So that impact a lot. And after that, we also wrote some letter to send to the central government about the problem. And then they invited us to come to Monreal. It's the Minister of Environment and Natural Resources. It's the control about, managing about the biodiversity. So we talked to NBCA. We share them the story. We share them, how we are people community try to conserve the bird, and we need to have the directive, and it resulted with the directive, for that Chang just mentioned. So with this, we have the paperwork. We have it's like a law, and we can tell them tell the hunters stop hunting by the government law. That is, that's an important thing. And I think this is not any other country in Asia have that directive for only migratory birds. So conserving the migratory bird, the wild bird. And after resulted with the Directive 04 in 2022, of course, this is not only our program, but we call for many other organizations to sign the recommendation to the central government. And then after that, we use this directive to talk to the local governments, like some department of environmental and local FPD, so they can help us for enforcement. And then the next step, we do the conservation awareness together with law enforcement. So we have own community, student. So we organize every year. We organize the welcome the bird and farewell the birds. Farewell the migratory bird. So when the bird come, people come to welcome the bird, and when the bird leave, we come to say goodbye. Together with that, we also organize like the birth race, also matching with the migratory World Migratory Bird Day, and we also organize other activity like we do the workshop with the local government and local community. We talk to them about how important of the migratory bird and the habitat. And we organize other activity like photography competition and exhibition, and also the tour. So we organize a tour for a photographer and children to the mud flat to see the bird and to take photographs. And recently we are working with Monra, with central government, and we draft the what called the action plan for water bird conservation in Vietnam, and it will come out soon. Hopefully, the action plan come out in May or in June this year. So that's the whole story that we are working together. BirdLife and Wild Tour are working in the southern Vietnam, and that's it. And would like to say thank you to all participants, pay attention, and hear the list of our team. So we formed what's called the Mekong Shorebird team, which is people from community, from university, and from BirdLife. And lastly, I would like to say thank you to everyone.
Great, thank you so much, Bao. Another excellent presentation, and I think most of us know already the importance of the Mekong Delta for migratory birds, but I think you've really brought that into sharp focus. And I think there's some common threads coming out already about the need for collaboration with law enforcement, engagement with local people, and so on. That's the way to make progress. So thank you so much for that. Our next speaker, Bao, I don't know if you could stop sharing your screen, if that's possible. That would be great. But our next speaker is from Thailand. So we moved from Vietnam to Thailand, and I'm delighted to introduce Rong Rong Kiao from King Mongkut's University. And Rong Rong is going to tell us about the impact of mist nets on birds in Thailand through a case study from the Central Plains. So Bao, can you stop sharing your screen? Great, perfect, thank you.
Yeah,
over to Rong Rong.
Sorry.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so good evening from Thailand, everyone, and to all OBC members. thank you for this opportunity to share our research on the mistnet in Thailand. This presentation actually based on my thesis published 2 years ago, highlight the systematic approach to assessing the threats in Thailand open country habitats. And I will also update you on our use of the iNaturalist citizen science platforms for the global data collections that with the use of all citizen scientists. And as seen in these photos, various birds, including lapwings, house sparrow, kingfishers, and even the raptor species like Japanese sparrowhawk have been found trapped and discarded in the net. And I would say most of the purpose that people use net in my study area mostly were for crops protection. And let me introduce you a little bit about my study area, the Central Plains of Thailand. It is a large expanse of low-lying open country habitats where rice fields are mainly used, are the main land use types. And some parts of the lands are identified as the IBA area, or Important Bird and Biodiversity Area. And originally, my thesis focused primarily on how open country birds population responds to the current land use practice. But during my preliminary survey, I frequently encountered the mistnet used for various purposes, such as the crop and farm animal protections, which is considered as a form of the human-wildlife conflict, or the net in the wetland, likely for illegal activities, were also observed. So these prompt me to broaden the scopes of my research to include this data collections on this issue as an incidental ad hoc component based on my preliminary observations. And this result, the result that I will share with you today were collected from the specific habitat types, including wetland, grassland, and various types of the open cultivated landscape, like rice fields area, sugarcane fields, and aquaculture area. But we not mainly focus on the orchard, for example. And for the objective of this study, actually, it is very straightforward. So we aim to assess the scales of mistnet and identify the bird species impacted by nets and other similar preventive measures that we found in the area. I'm not sure why my slide is not moving. Okay, so in the study, we classify the habitat into 3 major types, where the majority of the mistnet were observed. So the first one is the rice fields area, followed by the aquaculture ponds, which were mostly mixed in the lower parts of the area, and the other habitat types such as the human settlement, plantation, and orchards. And this map shows the locations of my survey locations. So in total, we conducted a relatively intensive survey across my study area with 1,312 survey transects, with the most observation were recorded in the rice fields area and aquaculture pond. And each of the started points located at least 2 kilometers apart from the other one throughout my study area. So for the data collection, we collect the data on nets and other potentially harmful deterrents observed along 2 kilometer transect with 200-meter width on each side of the road. And whenever we encounter a net, we record the types, whether they are, as well as the bird species, the numbers of individual birds that got trapped in the net. And here is the examples of the nets and other potentially harmful deterrents that we record during the study. So we group them into 4 types, include the first one is the vertical net. And the second one is parallel cord, which is, we refer to the horizontal parallel cords that are usually suspended above the over entire aquaculture pond. And the next type is the net exclosure, which is the nets that people set above the whole ponds or the whole rice fields area. And the other types such as hooks, baits, or snare attached at the poles. And we also obtained some local perspective on potential threats of this net from 104 local farmers, focusing primarily on the rice farmers or aquaculture farmers because they are the ones affected by birds. So the respondents were asked mainly about how they protect their crop and how much % do they think that nets help with the loss of the crops and or their products. So based on our survey from only 6-month period with only one visit, we found 1,800 nets in our study area. And if you look at the map here, which the data represented in grid levels, you can see that the nets were significantly clustered and more frequently observed in the lower parts of the plains. So these patterns correspond with the area predominantly used for aquaculture ponds, and you can see it by this bar graph. So the number of the observed net were significantly different from the expected value based on the habitat types area, and with the observed number in aquaculture ponds were 13 times higher than the expected value. And in terms of the number of the species and numbers of the bird that get tangled in the net, in this bar chart, we represent the data of the number of the birds in different color based on the different net types. So in total, we record 735 individuals from 45 species at least, and more than 80% of them were the species that were not considered highly destructive by farmers. And we can also see that the weaver's species experience the highest mortality rate, followed by munia and pond herons and the shorebird species. And among the 4 types of the net that used in the area, the vertical net, which represented in red bar chart here, were the ones in which the birds were most frequently entangled. And these are just an examples of the observation that we took from the fields. So most of the observation were from the vertical nets, and some of the parallel cords still caught some like the big birds like Asian openbill. And from the local perspective, I would like to highlight that more than a half of my interviewees stated that it is ineffective. And while only 6% of them, mostly the aquaculture farmer, they believe that the use of the nets and parallel cords still very effective in their fields. And these are the alternative methods that some respondents have used and recommended to me. So for example, they suggest using the ropes attached with the long strip of plastic bag like this, or the can to create the noise to scare the birds away, or another methods that involve using the giant incense stick with the firecracker ball to produce some loud explosion to deter the birds, but this need to be used with the caution about the noise pollution. And additionally, some of the respondents recommend using the raptor kite with the playback sounds or the solar power traffic light like this to be used as the deterrents. And for the aquaculture farmers, most of them recommend the use of the parallel cords like this, which it is aligned with our finding that this net types has less impact compared to the vertical net. And so I think the effectiveness and the cost of each alternative method required to be to have further study. And so I have also proposed many other approaches in this paper. So if you are interested in more details, so please feel free to check it out. It is now available online. And in addition to the result from my thesis, I would like to share an update on the other activity currently happening in Thailand outside my study area. So these photos were taken from my colleagues just a week ago in Chiang Mai province in northern part of Thailand. So hunters still set the net along the sandbar area like this, which is the roosting site of the small particle. So And the other activities, as I mentioned, my study did not focus in the orchard that much. So, however, there are still the case where farmers set the nets in this area. For example, in this Facebook post by Dr. Non shows that the net set up along the site at the Longan orchards, and you can see that a lot of birds get tangled in the net, and lots of bats as well, and lots of insects got tangled in this net as well. And additionally, there are still some records from the mudflat area. So this is the record from my colleague, Mr. Wachiravi. He sent me this photo when he observed the net that used for fishing that were left out during the day. It is incidentally trapped some of shorebirds, which you can see here. And another example came from another part of Thailand, from the Pattani Bay, which is in the deep south of Thailand, where the hunter used the live birds as a decoy. So in this case, it's the Tibetan sand plover. So they use this bird to attract the other birds to an area where they set up the numerous of the snare to catch them. And this is some examples to show you how easy to get the nets and other illegal hunting equipment in Thailand. So it is pretty similar to what we found in Vietnam. So these examples are just like listing from only one Thailand most popular platform. You can see that a lot of hunting tools are openly sold, and from just a roughly count from the item that display on this slide only, which maybe represent only 1% of the available equipment, approximately 25,000 of business were sold, 200 of the other snare and bird trap, and almost like 400 of watercock decoys and 200 recording of bottom quail calls on the flash drive were sold in these platforms. So I believe that the government should urgently take in some action to address this issue. Then there is a need to be a clear policy to regulate the sales of these hunting tools and equipment. And so for some solution that I would like to share, is there some examples that are successful on ground. So the first example would be the outreach activities with the local community. For instance, this is some activities from my colleagues in Chiang Mai from Oriental Bird Club. So they observed the significant number of the net in a village where they usually encounter numerous birds. So they organized the outreach activities to raise the awareness about the impacts of nets on various species and share the data on the ecological services provided by birds, and conducted the bird watching activities with the local community. So as a result of these efforts, they received an excellent response from the community, and the nets were no longer found in the area. And the second example is the use of the law enforcement, I would say. So this action were in the mudflat and the salt plant area near Pak Thale in Phetchaburi province, which is one of the most famous shorebird observation spot in Thailand. So the nets have been set up in the area, likely for hunting. And our colleague from Bird Conservation Society of Thailand collaborate with the community leaders to warn the hunter and place more sign highlighting the penalty, and also emphasize that this activity is illegal. So after the signs were installed, the hunting activities in the area stopped. And so a little bit more that I would like to share is about our use of the iNaturalist database to collect more data from elsewhere. So since August 2021, we have been collecting the data on the project called Tangle and Trapped project to collect the observation of dead, injured, or entangled animal caused by netting, trapping, and deterrence for non-scientific purposes. So what we have got, so far we have got 1,532 observations submitted to this project. And if we focus on only the bird species, there were 822 observations worldwide with 491 observations were from Asia. And these species are the species that were reported the most. For example, the lapwing species, Munia kingfisher, and bitterns. And as you know, the nets were set up for multiple purposes. So we also asked the observer to provide information about the presumed purpose of the nets based on their observation and also the equipment that used. So most of the records from Asia were from the vertical nets, which is like presumably related to protecting the crops and farms animal, while the other continents, majority of the records were involved with the bycatch from the abandoned fishing gear. So this is my last slide. So I would like to have this chance to encourage more people to submit the observation that you see in the fields to this project, and we are currently plan to publish some of this data to this project. We would like to publish them very soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rong. That was a terrific presentation. Really shocked by some of the statistics that you gave us. You know, over 1,800 nets in your little study area, and also that 80% of the species were considered non-destructive. So it just shows how indiscriminate these nets are. But also some positive things in there. You know, I love this iNaturalist project to gather data. I think that's a really positive way forward and a way for anyone to contribute. So thank you so much for that. Next up, we move north to China, and I'm delighted to introduce Dan Liang from Princeton University, who has been studying the impact of nets on migratory birds in China. So I'll hand straight over to Dan for his presentation.
Can you see my screen, Terry? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Terry and Dini, for organizing this webinar and for the invitation. I also would like to thank our colleagues in Vietnam and Thailand for their excellent presentation on this topic. I will introduce the situation in China, primarily, you know, from the research perspective. And in China, we have about like 800 migratory bird species, because China is part of 3 major flyways, including the East Asia-Australasian Flyway. And in the last decades, you know, China has made a tremendous effort to protect the migratory species. So 4 years ago, we added many migrants to a list of class 1 or 2 key protected species, including these critically endangered yellow-breasted bunting and the spoonbill sandpipers. And in recent years, the government has launched a six-year action plan for protecting the key stopover site along the flyway, and has made special action of law enforcement in combating the wildlife, like bird hunting and trade during the migratory seasons. Because the nature of the migration, the migrants are particularly vulnerable to all sort of the threat along the flyway. And this video shows the migration route for the shorebirds in the East Asia-Australasian Flyway. They are non-distant migrants and need to use multiple stopovers during migration, where they will, you know, form large concentrations. So anything bad that happen at any site, whether in the breeding site, wintering site, or during migration, will have a cumulative impact on the population of these birds. So the nets are such a bad thing, I think, for these migrants, because they can act as a filter to prevent them from completing the journey. So for the first part of my presentation, I will introduce this lethal net used for hunting. So hunting is illegal in China. And these pictures here show the mist net and the club nets used in the different ecosystems, including the agriculture and the wetland in the coast. So thanks to the law enforcement efforts, I was able to access more than 4,000 court verdicts involving bird hunting. So for this data, we can understand the scale of the use of mist net and other lethal tools for hunting, as well as the impact on the migratory birds. Then I will briefly introduce my fieldwork assessing the impact of hunting on migratory shorebirds along China's coast. And this map shows the bird hunting verdict density across China's prefectures. With the dark color here represent the higher density. And the bird hunting was actually detected in about 90% of Chinese prefectures. And among those, the mist net were used and detected in 69% of all China's prefectures. And the concentration here, if you see the map, concentrated in prefectures along this EAAF, like in Eastern China and Central China. And then we also want to understand when the hunters use the mist net. So the yellow line here represents the number of verdicts with the mist net as the tools across different months. And the blue line here shows the total number of individual birds being hunted in different months. And we can see here that there are two peaks. There was a smaller one in spring migration from April to May, and another huge peak in around October in the fall migration season. This is probably a combination. It's a combined result from the use of a mist net and the increased law enforcement during the migration seasons. So I also compared the proportion of the verdict as here showing the yellow bar here, and the proportion of the individual animals hunted as showing here in the blue bar, using the mist net and other tools such as the gun, slingshot, traps, and poison, electronic fence, etc. And we found that more than 50% of the verdict involving mist nets as hunting tools, and over 80% of the individuals were hunted using the nets, which is about like 1.5 million birds. And this suggests that the mist net were the most commonly used hunting tool. And then let's look at the number of individual birds in each verdict, as shown here by these black dots. And the dots above the red dashed line here represent the verdict involving more than 10,000 birds being hunted in each verdict. So one extreme case here involving 500,000 birds, as indicated here. So we can see that this verdict are mainly caused by the mist net, with a fewer using the poison here. And in total, we recorded at least like 460 Chinese bird species being hunted only in this verdict, as showing here in the dark color in the outer ring in this figure. And what is alarming for me, is 64% of them are the migrants, and some threatened migrants have been hunting in large numbers, such as the migratory buntings. And in the last few years, I have been traveling along China's coast to understand how nets are impacting migratory shorebirds. I visited 29 sites. that were important for these shorebirds. Showing here like a gray triangles on the map, and found different nets for hunting shorebird in only three of them, like three set, one in northern China and two in southern China. So it's seemingly not a huge problem, right? Because only three sites we found hunting, but nevertheless, we recorded, like from my field work, I repeatedly visited this site and monitored the mortality and calculated the total number of individual birds being hunted. And I estimated only at this handful, three sites, a handful of hunters will hunt like 15,000 shorebirds. And this will also affecting a lot of shorebird species. This is quite alarming if you go into very detail to monitor how many birds each net can caught each day, and you will have a huge number. So the takeaway for the first part, the mist net have been used, widely used by hunters. Probably is because it's quite easily available and concentrated in the migratory seasons, and especially in the fall. And it is the dietary tool that can cause the large mortality of migrants. And my field survey suggests that a handful of hunters can affect the population of some shorebird species. And for the second part, I want to talk about the needle net used for deterrence. So it's a different purposes. And the deterrence is a situation where the farmers use the tools to prevent the birds from eating their crops. It's like a similar situation from Thailand. And these tools can be used in both agricultural land and agricultural areas. So I want to give you an example from the agriculture on the meadowflat. Here in the picture, some shorebirds are eating the reed clam seed on the farms on the meadowflat. And then the farmers use these horizontal placed nets to prevent the birds from eating them, which can cause the death of many birds, as you can see from this picture. But sometimes they will also use the mist net, despite their purposes being the deterrence, but not hunting. So we also found that other meadowflat farmers may use the non-lethal deterrence methods, such as the plastic bags, color ribbons, and playing alarm calls. So for this part, we want to understand the impact of the lethal deterrence on the migratory shorebirds. And we also want to know why the farmers use different type of deterrence and what potential solution for mitigating this conflict between the farming and the birds. And first, we found that this type of lethal nets were widely used across the China's Zhejiang and Fujian provinces. This is two provinces cultivating the seed of reed clam and other bivalves. So only during the spring migration season, we have estimated around 30,000 shorebirds being entangled by these nets, which can affect the population of many shorebird species across the flyway. But actually, we found the potential solution for mitigating this mortality. This is because many farmers retain the nets on the meadowflat after harvest season and rely on the typhoon to remove them because they don't want to hire more people because this meadowflat is so soft, and they don't want to hire people to remove them, even after harvest. So when the spring migrants arrive at this site, actually they can get caught. So by just removing the nets right after harvest season, we can save most of these birds. So to understand why people use different deterrence tools and how to encourage them to remove the nets right after the harvest season, I have an ongoing collaboration with some socioeconomists in China, and we have just finished the survey in Zhejiang where we surveyed 270 7 farmers, and we will continue our survey in Fujian. So far we have learned that this net have been used for a few decades, mostly protect the seed from being eaten by the shorebirds and the wild ducks. So agricultural communities have faced multiple environmental threats, such as pollution, typhoon, infrastructure issues, and they also say they have the number of birds on the meadow flat is increasing. It's probably a result of decreasing the available land for the birds eating, as well as the decreasing land for the agricultural farming. So, and so they also said that preventing the birds from eating the crops is the only thing they can do, because they can do nothing for pollution, for typhoon, for the infrastructure, but what they can do is to buy the cheap nets and put there and protect their crops from eating by the birds. And also we found, so my impression was that the farmers who perceive the huge economic loss are more likely to use the nets and have a negative impact, like negative attitude towards removing the nets. So finally, we were able to chat with some local authorities, and they thought the standard of deterrence would be very helpful, because they actually have put a lot of effort to work with the local community, and they also understand the threats they are facing. And so they also said, if you want to ban this kind of nets, you need to provide another alternative deterrence tools. So there are a lot of work that we need to do. So the takeaway from this part, the mist net and other neutral nets were used for the deterrence. And this a standard that specifies which deterrence methods are allowed and which is not will be very helpful for the law enforcement. And the alternative deterrence methods should be, I think experimentally tested. I think that's something we should work on. And I also want to mention that, the voice of local farmers should also be heard. And finally, to understand the broader picture of this issue across country, my colleagues and I have launched a citizen science project called the AvaNet Watch, based on the mini app in WeChat. We launched this month, and the information gathered will be helpful for better understanding the issue across country and for developing some solutions. So because Ronron has just introduced their project in the iNaturalist, but there wasn't a lot of people using the iNaturalist in China. So I think this app will probably be very helpful to gather this kind of information and encourage the people to pay attention to this issue. With this, I'd like to thank my colleagues at Princeton and my Chinese collaborators in Sun Yat-sen University and in Spoonbill Santa Fe in China, and my colleagues in Chongqing University. And also, I would like to give my thanks to the police officers and the prosecutors for make all these like a verdict available, and that we can understand this issue better and find a solution. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Dan. I think that was a terrific presentation and really enlightening. Again, struck by some of the statistics in there that, sort of 80% of birds are hunted using mist nets, which just shows how important tackling mist nets is in terms of getting a handle on the poaching. And also that point about removing nets after the harvest could save most, just simply removing them after the harvest could save most of the birds. That's another sort of very simple solution that presumably could be enforced quite quickly. And I think it's also encouraging that there's local support for a standard for deterrence. I think that's something that should be prioritized, coming up with a standard could be very, very helpful. And again, the citizen science coming up again, you know, I think so valuable to find ways to allow citizens to contribute to this issue. So really fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I know that we are about out of time from the scheduled 2 hours, but my suggestion is that we continue for another 10 or 15 minutes for those of you who are willing to stay on, so that we can take at least a couple of questions for the speakers. So if you're willing to, please stay on for 10, 15 minutes, and we'll take a couple of questions and then have some final comments from the Oriental Bird Club. So now I would like to hand over the moderation to Yongding Li, who will take on the Q&A session. So over to Ding Li.
Thanks very much, Terry. Good summing up points. I think we've all gone through a really fruitful evening of looking at the problems of mist nets and how it threatens birds. But I think more importantly, we have also seen lots of fantastic case studies, examples of actions on the ground in particular, and how we can address this problem together. Once more, I would like to thank all the presenters for sharing your experiences on the ground and how your efforts directly have helped address the problem that is posed by nets, not just mist nets, but all sorts of improvised nets to migratory birds. We've learned and seen from case studies across 3 parts of the East Asian-Australasian Flyway in China, in Thailand, and in Vietnam, that these challenges that we are seeing in front of our eyes are widely shared across the flyway, and are a common problem, common threat to migratory birds. More importantly, I also like to say that the lessons you have shared demonstrate clearly to everybody in this call that with strong engagement, with dedication of local conservationists and researchers working on the ground, as we have seen here, and of course with political will, we can make huge differences to addressing the threat faced by nets. I myself learned a lot, and I'm really pleased to see the examples from Vietnam, how there's been lots of work on the ground to address the problem by working directly with local communities, with religious groups, with the local government, and also with the central government. Likewise in Thailand, working with lots of different civil society organizations, and also with the Thai government to address the problem through awareness and strengthening enforcement. But also the case studies that we have seen from China, lots of very inspiring examples of different initiatives from different provinces of China, how the problem can be dealt with. Things that I've learned for the first time today, for example, the ecological compensation efforts in China, the green net plan that was really interesting for me, and also the development of a series of compliance awareness mechanisms to inform people who buy things online. I think that's a really powerful step. And that's something that I believe can offer much insight for many of us working in other parts of Asia, in East Asia, in Southeast Asia, and South Asia. I know there are lots of comments. There's been lots of lively discussions in the chat box, and also questions have been raised. But I think first and foremost, and mindful of the time that we have, I'd like to put up one question that was raised that would apply across our presenters, colleagues from all 3 countries. There was a question on mist nets that are being sold in Vietnam and in Thailand. Personally, I've also observed mist nets being sold directly in Laos and in Cambodia and even in Malaysia. I would like to highlight this question that was brought up. Would it be possible to address factories from the illegal production and exportation of mist nets to other countries in the context of Vietnam and Thailand? I think this question could be one that our friends from Thailand and Vietnam would have insights on. So I would like to direct the question to Rong Rong, if you're still on the call, Bao, and also Zhang. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
Okay, so maybe first start with me. I have not much knowledge about the factories that produce the net in Thailand, but I think they are from both sources. Like some were imported from China and some were made in Thailand, I think. Yeah, and for the other hunting tools, it's mostly seems like it was produced by Thai local hunters that they try to make it themselves and sell it online. Yeah, from my site.
Thanks, Rong Rong. I think that's the good point that you mentioned. I think I've also observed a similar thing because I bought some mist nets myself, and I could see from the information on the mist net that it was produced in local factories. Although there are also other mist nets that are imported from other parts of Asia. I'd like to hear what our friends from Vietnam have to say as well from your experiences on the ground in northern Vietnam and in southern Vietnam. Maybe Bao and Chang.
I can share some information here. The mist net in Vietnam, basically what I know is the black mist net is imported from China, but in Vietnam, people are also using the fish net for trapping the bird. They hang this white plastic fishing nest, like a gill nest, fishing gill nest, so they can use that. And lots of them use that for bite catching, especially for protecting the farming, the clam or the fishery. And though fish net is produced in Vietnam, so mostly the blackfish net imported from China, and the gill nest for fishing using that from Vietnam. That's what I know.
Thanks very much, Bao. And Chang, if you have, do you have any thoughts on your observations in northern Vietnam?
Yeah, I just want to ask a little bit because I think Rong Rong and Mr. Bao already mentioned that most of it was imported from China and then some was kind of like locally made. But another thing, because we didn't have enough time to mention it, but for Vietnam, at least now, I see there's quite a new trend of young people that they managed to buy guns illegally from China, and they using gun for kind of like recreation sport hunting, and it's big. We encounter it more and more now in northern Vietnam. The thing with young people, Kayao kind of as well, they like to make kind of illegal and thrilling video and then post it on YouTube, and then they get a lot of follower. So we would have like a lot of horrendous videos that they torturing wild birds, or they showing that they go huntings and they're videoing it, and then they get lots of like and share and people commenting on it. So that was also one of the things I think it's really important that we need to tackle as well. And then on the other side, we try with WIAC, we try to contact several online platforms, let's say Facebook, for example, because there are lots of Facebook groups that selling bird hunting equipment. But the answer from them was very much disappointing because they was not that kind of paying much attention into collaborating to support or to help these problems. We contacted Shopee, and with Shopee, those that we flag it up and we contacted them, and then they send them the creative in Vietnam and say, this is illegal, you cannot sell this kind of thing. They was very collaborate with us in a way that they would take down the advertising immediately, but there is no action directly and actively action from them to kind of, I guess they could be things that they could do, like they could put mist nest as a keyword, and anyone put that on should be the advertising should be like now immediately, but nothing like that happened yet so far. It's just like anything we report and they say, okay, we remove it, done. But you cannot just sit there and looking up every single day and listing out every single advertising for them to remove. So it's important to, again, like how to work with other sectors and how to kind of like pressing them to making sure that their business or whatever they are doing is legal within the framework of the country that they are working in.
Yep. Thanks, Chang. That's a really important point that you raised up. Also, on top of nets, there's also an issue of handmade guns and also illegally obtained guns. I'm also saying that because I'm doing a bit of work in Southeast Asia as well, looking at the issue of bird hunting in Laos, for example, and we have been finding cases where a lot of these videos that you mentioned are being posted. Even in Indonesia, there are lots of these kind of hunting videos. And I think a clear takeaway I'll put it here for all colleagues on this call to consider is to look and explore at how we can better work with the social media company, because there's a lot of information hosted on many social media platforms that is obviously violation of national law in many Asian countries. YouTube, for example, Facebook, for example, and also some of the other major online shopping companies. And a lot of us like to do online shopping these days. As much as we can buy perfume and clothes on online platforms, we can also buy a lot of different hunting tools, from mist nets to handmade gun, and even some decoys. I've seen some decoys on sale, to trap and attract those birds. So I think that's a really important point, and I do believe that the lessons that you have shared, together with lessons from Dan, Rong Rong, Bao, and our colleagues in the Chinese Procuratoriate, there's lots that we can work on these topics together. I'm mindful that it's 15 minutes past the hour, and this is dinner time in Asia. For many of us, it's already quite late in the day. It is 8 p.m. in China and Singapore, and it's already 7 p.m. in Vietnam and Thailand. So on that note, I would like to once again thank everybody for your excellent contributions. Like I say, we don't have time to look at all the great comments, but we will keep the chat, and we will be in touch with you to respond to some other comments and ideas that you have shared. On that note, I will also pass the floor back to Terry, in case, Terry, if you've got any final points before we close for today. Yeah. Thanks, and over to you, Terry.
Thanks, Ding Li. Yeah, well, I will hand it straight over to Paul from Oriental Bird Club, who will deliver some closing remarks. But I just want to say thank you also to the interpreters and the support of Client Earth, who really helped to make this webinar possible. So thank you so much to them. So I'll hand over to Paul for the closing remarks.
Okay, thanks very much, Terry and Ding Li. I'll keep this short because it's lunchtime here in the UK. And both Ding Li and Terry have done a great job, not only of putting this webinar together, but summing up the excellent presentations that we've had. I think it is worth going over to make sure we could get all of that in there. Myself, I'm just a quick introduction. My name's Paul Inselcow. I'm the chair of the Conservation Committee of OBC, and I'm also a trustee of the club. Ding Li is also a trustee of the club, and he's also, as you probably may be aware, working for BirdLife, which are our co-hosts and very sort of key to organising this webinar. And BirdLife, as you may know, and BirdLife partners are very active addressing this issue in the region. It's my honour to sort of thank again all the presenters. There were brilliant presentations. I'd like to thank Chang, Bao, Rong Rong, Dan Liang, and especially the Supreme People's Procurator of China, so Deputy Director General Chu, Prosecutors Mu Qi and Ding Shu. It's been a special honour for OBC to host you in this webinar. It's not something that we normally have, and especially it's a Saturday evening. I'm sure you're wanting to get back to your families and friends and enjoy evening meal. But it shows a clear commitment from the procurator in China of addressing this issue that you are joining us this evening. I need to do a plug for the OBC, the Oriental Bird Club. For those of you who don't know, we're a small club that's run by volunteers. We have members throughout the world. Most of them are in Europe and Asia, and you are very welcome to join. We have this very nice publication that comes out twice a year, and we also have the Journal of Asian Ornithology, which we publish once a year. And I'd like to also invite you to get involved with OBC to address this issue. We're quite a small club run by volunteers, as I said. You could become a member, again, to receive the publications and to be kept updated on these issues. You might wish to donate to OBC. We have a donation page, and we have a special fund for shorebirds. And if you want to donate to that shorebird fund, you put shorebirds in the donation page and it will be directly going to that fund. All donations, 100% of the donations that come to OBC go directly to projects because we are run by volunteers. So OBC doesn't take any of those costs. And finally, and probably interesting for quite a few of you, is that OBC does fund meaningful projects that support the conservation of birds in Asia. And particularly we have a shorebirds fund as well. So we invite any sort of good ideas for small projects that particularly address the issues we've been hearing about today. And we get, although our grants are quite small, we get some really good projects, as you have already heard from one of our grantees today, who is Chang. So on that note, and to keep it short and let you all go, I'd like to thank everybody for participating. This has been a particularly well-attended webinar. So it shows a lot of interest in this issue in the region. And I hope that you can go away with it from some sense of hope, some of the good work that's being done by all the presenters today and a lot of other people in the region. And so with that, I'd like to wish you a good evening. Enjoy the rest of the day wherever you are. And I'll see you at the next webinar and in the next interactions that we will have. Thank you very much.